We're now beginning the second lesson in the productivity model. This lesson, Reviewing IT, is about why and how you should review the various IT tools, systems and applications that you use on a day-to-day basis. Even if you've done extensive research on a particular IT tool or application, you'll learn a lot more about it when you start to actually use it. This is why it's important to pause occasionally to review how you are using IT tools and applications. Your review should also consider whether you are using these tools and applications to maximum effect. There are 5 topics in this lesson. These topics are organized around 5 core questions that you should answer as part of your overall effort to ensure maximum personal productivity. First, do the tools you're using match the tasks you're doing? Second, do the tools you're using stand up to scrutiny when assessed in terms of the main criteria for effectiveness? Third, is the output from your own personal use of IT tools, your work or what you're producing, as good as it can be? Does it meet the standards required? Fourth, what specific improvements can your IT tools help you make to your work? And finally, you can use IT tools to determine whether the solutions and improvements that you've introduced have made your work truly as good as it can be. Essentially, were the solutions effective? The first question to ask when you're reviewing the IT tools, applications or systems that you use is, am I using the correct tools for what I want to do? Do the tools match the tasks? It could be that you're using the wrong tools altogether, and that they're not all appropriate or suitable. It's more likely, though, that you'll find the tools you are using are partly appropriate or suitable. For instance, the tool or application might be ideal for the beginning of a task, but not so well suited for the end of it. So how can you determine whether the tools you're using match the tasks you're doing? A good approach is to divide each task into smaller components and determine the specific requirements at each stage. For example, Bill is the Customer Insights Manager for a major retail organization. Every month, Bill's boss asks him to analyze and present some findings from the company's ongoing customer satisfaction survey. Bill uses a spreadsheet application to help him analyze the data and create a series of graphs and charts. It works well. Bill always manages to identify some interesting insights and trends, and he's pleased with the ease and efficiency of it all. However, when Bill is giving the presentation, he often senses that his audience isn't all that impressed. It's the same every month. After around 10 minutes, people just seem to lose interest. While a spreadsheet application is ideal for the first part of Bill's task, analyzing data and identifying trends, it's not the best tool for the second part, the presentation. If Bill had used a presentation application such as Microsoft PowerPoint, he could have presented his findings in a more dynamic, engaging, and entertaining way. Bill was using the wrong tool for the task. This topic illustrated the importance of using the correct tools, applications, or systems for what you're trying to do. To check this, first determine what your needs are. Then determine whether the particular tool or application is meeting these needs. Doing this will help you assess whether the tools you're using match the tasks you're doing. Knowledge check. The second question to ask when you're reviewing the IT tools, applications or systems that you use is, do they stand up to scrutiny when assessed in terms of the criteria for general overall effectiveness? What are these criteria? Well, a good IT tool should offer versatility, quality, cost-effectiveness, convenience, and efficiency. Click on each element to find out more about it. Versatility basically means that the tool can be applied to different uses, or that it can be easily switched from one task to another. Even if you're doing the same task every day, it's likely there will be some subtle differences. So a good tool should offer some versatility. Think again about Bill's experience. You could say that the spreadsheet application he uses lacks versatility because he is unable to use it to make an effective presentation. About it. A good IT tool should enable the user to produce output or work of real quality. This applies both to the actual content and the presentation. Remember that you'll often be judged on how your work looks, so it's important that the tool you use enables you to produce polished, professional-looking work. Of course, the content must also be of high quality. Applying this to Bill's experience, you could say that the spreadsheet application he uses is letting him down in terms of quality. Yes, the content is excellent, but it doesn't enable him to give a quality presentation. A good IT tool or application should provide cost-effectiveness. Does the output or benefit provided by the tool justify the money spent to acquire it? One way to determine a particular tool's cost-effectiveness would be to entail its output with a comparable tool's output, and then assess whether the difference in cost, if any, is warranted. Another method would be to calculate the monetary value of the benefit provided by the tool, and then compare this to the cost of acquiring the tool. When assessing an IT tool, it's important to look for convenience. This means that it enables the user to complete the task easily and comfortably, and with the minimum amount of time, effort, and expertise required. In Bill's case, the spreadsheet application he uses is certainly convenient. Even though Bill is not an IT expert, he is able to use the tool to produce what he wants easily and comfortably, and without needing assistance from anyone else. A good IT tool or system should also offer efficiency. This means that it enables the user to do whatever the user needs to do without wasting any resources, time, or energy. For example, an IT tool or application that regularly freezes, causing data to be lost or corrupted, would not be deemed efficient. This is because the user has to regularly start all over again, which is a waste of time and effort. However, in Bill's case, the spreadsheet application he uses does offer efficiency. As well as versatility, quality, cost-effectiveness, convenience and efficiency, there are a few other factors that you should take into account when reviewing your IT tools, systems, or applications. Things like transferability, compatibility, and practicality are also important. What do these mean? Well, take transferability. The value of an otherwise great IT tool is reduced if the output it produces can't be transferred to colleagues or clients. You may not always want to transfer or share your work, but you should at least have the option of being able to send it to someone else. This is related to the next factor, compatibility. An IT tool ideally should not present you with compatibility, or rather incompatibility issues. You can't assume that colleagues or clients use the same software or application, so the tool you use must be generally compatible with others. And finally, a good tool is practical. For example, some tools produce output that cannot be edited, but this may not be practical for you if you need or want others to be able to edit, adapt, or add to your work. Others produce enormous files, which are simply too large to be transmitted over the Internet. This too would be impractical. This topic showed you how to evaluate your IT tools, applications, or systems in terms of 5 key criteria. These are versatility, quality, cost-effectiveness, convenience, and efficiency. In certain cases, other factors, such as transferability, compatibility, and practicality, should also be taken into account. Knowledge check. The third question to ask when reviewing IT tools, applications, or systems is whether they enable you to produce work that meets the required standard. This entails reviewing your own work and doing so honestly and critically. To this, ask, are there any errors? Where are the weaknesses? And are there opportunities for improvements? A good starting point for this kind of review is to conduct an assessment that includes things like appearance, accuracy, clarity, and style. Click on each of these elements to find out more about it. When assessing the general appearance of your work, you should consider things like its format and layout. The format and layout of something is the general design or arrangement of, for example, a document. There's no right or wrong format or layout, but some options are more appropriate than others. It all depends on the audience, the goal, and the content. For instance, if you're preparing a presentation for teenagers, your general format and layout should be fun and colourful, with eye-catching images and playful, snappy graphics. However, if you are preparing a presentation on a serious issue to an audience of senior academics, the format and layout of this presentation should reflect the more serious nature of the content. It is essential that your work is entirely accurate. Inaccuracies not only reflect negatively on your work, but also on your own professional credibility. Always double-check all data and information for accuracy before publishing any work, and ensure that you can stand over and substantiate any statements, assertions, or conclusions. If you're using charts or graphs, ensure that they accurately represent the intended information. Irrespective of how attractive or well-written a piece of work is, it is useless if it contains inaccuracies. You should always assess your work for clarity. The overall message that you want to communicate should be obvious from the title of any document, and the first paragraph, section, or slide should give a broad synopsis of what follows. Also, reread every sentence to ensure that it's clear and easy to understand. If you use charts, graphs, or images, ensure that these too clearly communicate their message. The final element to consider when assessing your work is style. In particular, you should always ask yourself whether the style used is appropriate. Just as certain styles of dress are not appropriate for certain social occasions, certain styles of writing or presentation may be inappropriate depending on the audience, content, or goals. For instance, a light-hearted casual style may be acceptable for a document intended to be distributed only among your colleagues. It may not be appropriate for a document to be sent to an important client. This topic discussed the importance of reviewing your own work or output. When doing so, you should consider certain primary elements, such as appearance, accuracy, clarity, and style. Knowledge check. When you have assessed your own output, it's time to think about what improvements can be made, and how the IT tools you use can help you make these improvements. Pinpointing potential improvements can often enable you to not only correct errors, but also to work faster and more efficiently. For example, careful proofreading of a document might uncover what appear to be small mistakes. Things like misspelled words, typos, formatting inconsistencies, and so on. These might seem like small mistakes, but even minor blemishes, like the occasional typo, can have a negative impact on how others perceive both you and your work. That's why it's important to correct errors. But don't just correct them. Find ways to prevent mistakes from happening again, or at least make them happen less frequently. And find faster and more efficient ways to identify and correct mistakes when they do happen. For example, Jackie recently secured a job as a reporter with a local newspaper. When she proofread the final draft of her first ever feature article before submitting it to her editor, she noticed that she had misspelt the same word throughout the article. Instead of reading the article over and over to ensure she had caught every instance of the mistake, one of Jackie's colleagues suggested that she use the find and replace function. Doing this enabled her to quickly and thoroughly check the article for all instances of the error and replace each with the correct spelling. So not only did Jackie correct the errors, she found a way to work faster and work more efficiently. Realizing just how much this simple feature enhanced her own personal productivity, Jackie resolved to learn more about the various features of the IT tools she already used. This topic discussed how you can leverage the functions and features of existing IT tools to correct errors in your work. And these features can also boost your productivity by enabling you to work faster and work more efficiently. Knowledge check. Having corrected any errors and made improvements, it's time to assess whether the solutions you introduced were effective. Sometimes it helps to put the project aside for a short time, a day or two, so that you can assess it with fresh eyes and a clear head. At this stage, your work should be very close to being the finished product. All it needs are a few final touches. To help in identifying precisely what final touches are required, it helps to ask two simple questions. First, how does what you have now compare with what you originally intended to produce? Does the present output match the original goals? Perhaps you drew up a checklist when you were in the planning stage. If so, now is a good time to go back over the checklist to ensure that you've covered everything that you originally set out to cover. Tick off the items one by one. If you missed anything or covered anything inadequately, correct it now. Even if you didn't compile a checklist, take a moment to reflect on what you originally set out to achieve. Be honest with yourself and ask, have I achieved what I intended to achieve? Another way to identify any final changes that might be necessary is to put yourself in the audience's shoes. Try to assess the final product from your intended user's perspective. This means critically assessing whether it contains the right information. Also consider whether it contains anything irrelevant or without value to the intended audience. Content or information that's irrelevant or superfluous will just distract and frustrate your audience. Think, too, about the sort of questions your audience might ask. Does it convincingly and comprehensively answer these questions? This topic explored ways to assess the effectiveness of any solutions or improvements that you made to your work. A good way to do this is to critically examine the final output. And do this by first comparing the final output to your original goals, and by second, considering the value of the final output from the user's perspective. Knowledge check. This lesson on reviewing the IT tools, applications and systems that you use illustrated the value of conducting such a review with 5 core or key questions in mind. First, do the tools you're using match the tasks you're doing? Second, do the tools you're using stand up to scrutiny? Third, does your output meet the standard required? Fourth, what specific improvements can your IT tools help you to introduce? And finally, were the solutions effective?